Welcome to the Popular Pig Podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Rooda, and joining us today is Dwight Mogler, founder of Iowa Craft Meats, and is super excited to have you on. And we also have Daniel Rosales from Swine Tech joining us as well. Today we're going to talk about your family background in pork production, but then also your venture to driving consumption direct to consumer and through B2B models, and just excited to hear about the journey and what you're learning as you're kind of hopping into this with your family. So great to have you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Matthew. Certainly a privilege and honor to be your guest here today. Well, actually, you think of the country celebrating its 250th year this year. Actually, when we celebrated the 200th year, 1976, that's when our family got into what I would call modern pork production.
Okay.
My family's background, my father was a beef feedlot guy, and we still have a very significant beef feedlot business as an enterprise of our family farm. But in 1976, my father, who was a visionary, built a 230 sow farrow to feeder pig, totally confined shower in, shower out facility, one of the first in our community. And quite frankly, for being cattle feeders, a lot of the traditional hog farming families kind of wondered what was going on because this was a different approach. But quite frankly, that was the beginning of really a lifetime of being basically immersed in pork production, not only through my 4-H and FFA experience, but actually pursued a career initially after I graduated from Iowa State in the animal nutrition space. With Cargill in the feed business, but then had invitation from two older brothers. I'm the fifth of 7 children. 2 older brothers were farming full-time with my father, joined him in the 70s. My younger brother and I, after we graduated from Iowa State and I had about 5 years of experience elsewhere, we joined up. And then we expanded what that at that time in the early 90s was about 5,000 pigs per year and grew that to a 900 sow farrow to finish model with on-farm female. Yeah. So basically to justify our existence on the farm, right, so that we can support more families. So we grew that to basically a 20,000 pig per year entity, and that was all internally, our own barns, our own feed mill. The first full-time employee that we hired, Jessica, remember it like yesterday. And the reason I remember it because 5 years later, she married my younger brother, and she's my sister-in-law today. And her and my brother's son is now a partner in the business. And so, yeah, really a lot of family legacy, family history with the swine business. It's been very important part woven into our diversified farm operation today. Still beef feedlot, row crop, corn, soybeans. We have a grain elevator exclusively for the purpose of sourcing grain because our needs for feed are far beyond what the 3,000 acres of row crop that we farm, because not only for the beef feedlot operation, but also for the swine operation. And then, of course, we've grown that business today to where we market about 200,000 pigs. And the impetus for that was when the next generation, my brothers and I, our children, wanting to be part of the business. And today, what started out as Pig Hill Company in 1976 has recently transitioned over the last 5 years into Dayspring Farm, and that would be our children's entity. Okay. And so Dayspring Farm is now the entity that is farming the family legacy farm. Literally, the farm office is on the farm where my father was born and raised. My grandparents bought that farm in 1921, 105 years ago. That's, I'm fourth generation because I had a great-grandfather that immigrated and farmed right next door. My grandfather and my grandmother actually lived with his parents until they were able to buy the farm next door. And very much entrenched into our family's DNA, not only production agriculture, livestock care, but also just the rural community and the community aspect and the full life cycle analysis of where we're able to utilize the nutrients of manure to return to the cropland. As my father often said, we're going to walk the grain off the farm rather than sell it, and that's really the model that we still embrace yet today.
Yeah, so you have a pretty cool story, too, as the industry was trying to figure out how do we implement technology, and it didn't have the critical mass to really get it to where producers needed it. Your brother came from a background in General Mills, right? And kind of helped wire all of that together and you really were on the front end of not just kind of what you're looking at today, but on the technology side too.
So I guess I'd probably step back a little bit and just say this is actually part of my father's story. My father was the seventh of eight children, and he had 6 sisters, and he had one brother who was 10 years older. And my Uncle Phil grew up during the 30s, born in 1921, and because convinced there had to be a better way to make a living than to farm. And so he actually started an ag sales business, and so he was very innovative in what he helped develop for livestock farmers in the area. But, I mean, he was an electrician and a plumber, liquid manure handling, actually finished his career being the top salesperson for DTN Information Networks, if you remember the original DTN Information Network prior to the internet. And so my father proved to his parents that he could bring a skill set back, and so he really excelled in accounting and keeping records on the farm. And my father will tell this story. He spent more money for the electronic load cells on his feed mixer truck than what the truck itself cost. In 1981, when my older brother graduated from Iowa State, I was between my sophomore and junior year in high school. He came back from Ames, Iowa, with an Apple III business computer before we had the Apple II computer in the office or in the schools, and we learned on spreadsheets, VisiCalc, which then rolled into Lotus 123 and then Excel. And so data, information, measuring things so that you can manage them is part of the family legacy. And then you referenced my brother Kent, who when he graduated from Iowa State spent 26 years at General Mills and then several years in a meat processing business, served as a CEO for a meat processing and distribution company. My younger brother, who was our information guy and the accountant, also an Iowa State graduate, the accounting was part of one of the hats he wore. He was diagnosed with a terminal illness in 2011. And so that's when my brother started expressing an interest of helping on a consulting basis. And pretty much we became almost a full-time focus for him, even though he's 4 hours from the farm in the Twin Cities. He works both remotely and is on site, and that's been going on for about 10 years. And so he's really developed what we call our customized ERP system, where we've got one platform not only for production data, but we've got one platform that we use the same data systems for financial information. We use the same data systems for Frontline Farms, which is our app where data input is done as it happens in real time and generate real-time reports. So yeah, that's very much part of our operating system today. And thanks to my brother Kent, who brought that skill set and vision to implement. And that's an ongoing process. You never arrive, right?
Yeah.
So
It's never fully finished.
Well, no, you're never fully finished, but it always helps you get to the next step.
Yep, step by step. And we also have Daniel here. So Daniel, do you mind giving a brief background just so as you're chiming in, people know who you are?
Yeah, for sure. Well, my name is Daniel Rosales. I'm originally from Honduras. I have a master's degree in South Dakota State University in animal science with a focus in swine nutrition. And I worked in here and there. I have maybe 7 years of experience in swine production in general. And I really like swine meat. I really like pork.
Well, you're in good company today, Daniel. I think you and I will get along just fine.
Yeah, if you can't see already, we've got a lot of pork laid out. So we're going to be diving into that here today.
Yeah.
So to kind of segue to that, the industry is really focused on demand. Demand's a big problem. How have you seen that as representing yourself and your perspective, and how as a producer you're looking at this demand problem? What was running through your mind when you saw that and it became pretty clear that is a potential problem? And yeah, how did you take that?
Well, so maybe just step back. At the core, I would consider myself to be more of a macro econ visionary. I've always tried to figure out how to connect the dots and how everything works, so to speak, economically. And obviously, we're in a global business, right? And understanding that. I mean, Dermot Hayes, if you know that name, professor of economics. I had the privilege of having him as an instructor. His first year that he taught at Iowa State, and it was actually my last year, took a 500 level, a graduate level econ ag marketing class from Dermot, and actually have still remained very good friends with him today. But thanks to my Iowa State schooling, spent a lot of time studying economics and then just, being a lifetime learner. And, we in the industry have done a remarkable job of reinvesting and plowing back profits into the business, not only and I'm speaking not only about our own business, but I'm talking about the industry in general, right? Of learning how to get better. Rob Brenneman, who you would know well, president of the National Pork Producers Council, he says every day he wakes up trying to figure out how can he be better today than he was yesterday. And really, that's a reflection of the attitude of a lot of people in our industry. And so we've been really good. It's oftentimes referred to as the hedgehog concept. And as a result, we have remained very, very competitive on a global landscape. And we've grown this industry really on the back of export growth. And quite frankly, domestic demand growth has grown at about 1 to 2% a year, total demand, based on population growth here in the U.S., whereas supply, we've exceeded that. And so without exports, we would never have been able to grow our industry like we have in the past 35 to 40 years. Joe Luter III, he was the last Luter to be, CEO of Smithfield Foods. And I remember quite well, this would have been perhaps back in the early 2000s when he made the quote publicly about exports are very good for our business, but he says we have to be a little careful. He says it's kind of like heroin. He says you could become addicted and someday it could kill you. And quite frankly, if you look at the trend of how we've grown this industry on exports over the last 30 plus years, you really have to question the sustainability and the resiliency of that business model. And so as a producer, I can't change the industry, but as a family, we really have taken a really hard look. My brothers and I, we accommodated one of our children, each of us, to become partners in the business by growing, all sectors or all enterprises, but significantly grew our pig business in 2008. We were still at about 20,000 pigs per year. We had been at that for about 7-8 years. We took that from 20,000 to 200,000 in about a 9-year period. So very rapid growth. And even at that, a lot of producers in our neighborhood would consider us to be a large producer, but we're just one of several hundred producers that raise the 20% of the pigs that the top 40 producers don't raise. Essentially, there's 40 entities in the U.S. that raise 80% of the pigs in the U.S. Several hundred of us raise the other 20%. And so I guess where I'm going with that is my children and grandchildren, will they have to go to 2 million or 4 million to be relevant? And I don't think that's a sustainable model, essentially, that be able to acquire and farm additional farmland to utilize the nutrients, to have that full life cycle analysis.
You're saying quantity isn't the path. It's going to have
to be quality. I don't
see
quantity being the path. And so, again, the gross margin model that we work off of, we've been very focused on cost. But quite frankly, the revenue is we're a price taker, not a price maker. We work through supply agreements with some excellent companies who own brands or do business with brands that are, I call them Wall Street brands. We have the opportunity today as producers to connect with consumers. Technology is there. The distribution systems and the efficient processing capacities are there where we really can develop those relationships and actually work backwards from the consumer to the farm, and we can create and develop brands that we can own. And it's a way for Main Street, for rural America to own brands. Consumers want this. They want this in a bad way. Big food is really the only choice that they have. But at the heart, they don't want to do business with Wall Street brands. They would rather do business, locally. Now, what is local, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I was
right.
in New York City in the Bronx, Hunts Point here just a few weeks ago, and I told the folks there, Iowa is local to New York City because they're right on the port. Anything they bring in the water is less local than Iowa. And we know that local, meaning 50 to 150 miles, is not an option. I mean, 80% of the U.S. population lives within 2 hours of one of the coasts.
No, I mean the farmers markets try to make it feel like that's still an option.
Absolutely.
But unless you're willing to go walk to that farmer's market, it's not.
No. So it's only a very small segment of the market that, first of all, is going to shop there, has the time to shop there, and has the resources to pay perhaps a premium price. And so I'm talking premium products on basis of quality, but still very cost effective in our production and processing and distribution models that we can still compete with the large brands. I mean, we will merchandise Iowa Craft Meats will in a form that will be more relevant to the consumer. The industry has not done a very good job with its high throughput processing systems of having size relevant products. I mean, basically, we're really good at putting out primals and subprimals that aren't necessarily relevant for most households. And so there's just an incredible opportunity, not only in portioning, but also fully cooked. Just the innovation space is unlimited. And really, we don't need to look too far around in the animal protein sector to realize that we have a long ways to catch up with the folks who raise, the feather protein variety. You know what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
right?
Wall Street Journal, they had an article out that came out and said, startups are eating big foods lunch. Like right now, if you are a startup brand on the food space, you can connect to the consumer more authentically in the way they want to be connected.
Absolutely.
And you're cutting out a lot of those middle pieces, and they like that.
Yeah. And, a lot of us, and we were kind of pioneers, if I can say that, in pricing pigs off of the PK602, the cutout. I mean, we saw this back in 2008-9, that the future of the negotiated cash market, we didn't see it as having a future at all. And we really pushed with our processing partners, those who we signed supply agreements of allowing us, and we negotiated, obviously, to have a pricing model based on the cutout. History, looking in the rearview mirror in 2008 and 9, it was about a toss-up whether that was the right thing to do or not. But obviously, not only did that work out well for our family, the vast majority of market hogs today have some form of reference to the PK602. Well, so if you start understanding that cutout report, that's based on negotiated sales, right? So anything that's internal within the company, there's no price to report. It's just an internal transfer. So, but there's a huge business of customers of the packers who buy pork promos in what I call the industrial trade. We as farmers, we can participate in that. Now, we have an arrangement with a packer who's allowing us to, segregate loads of hogs, and then we have opportunity to buy back primals that are actually from pigs raised on our farm. But there's a lot of people who buy back primals that don't raise pigs, and they have great brands.
Yeah.
And so it's not like you have to own a packing plant and have shackle spaces to participate in the innovation.
You don't have
and
to be
brand
the producer. You can be the artisan.
You can be the artisan. And again, this is who I'm surrounding myself with. At the heart, I'm a pig farmer. I always will be. I always wear my pig tie. All my conversations start with, it's all about the pig.
Yeah.
Without the pig, you can't have bacon.
Yeah.
Don't forget about the people who take care of the pig. It happens every day, right? And this is what I'm most passionate about, but I'm really passionate about the fact that I can able to connect with consumers who love pork and who love to hear about how we take care of the animals that feed their families.
All right, so before we get into Iowa Craft Meats, we'll start out. What is your favorite cut of pork?
Well, I always say bacon is the gateway drug.
Yeah?
I mean, bacon is just the beginning, right?
How do you like your bacon, seasoned or like?
So that's great that you asked that. I don't like heavy seasoning. I'm not a real big pepper fan, but we've got a whiskey peppercorn bacon that a lot of people just crave.
Yeah.
The flavor profile that I like is our maple bourbon. That's my favorite. But just a regular hickory smoked bacon, and it's more about how it's prepared than the flavor. The flavor that's natural that comes from the really rich fat rendered down properly, and the meat. If it's cured and smoked, I mean, the artisan is is really the person who smokes the bacon.
Yeah.
So again, working with the culinary and the craftsmen, and again, Iowa Craft Meats, right? We're working with people who know the craft and have the craftsmanship. And so we've sought out craftsmen in this further processing space that do a phenomenal job of helping enhance taste and flavor with a very high quality, raw material. I mean, not only a high quality, tender, juicy protein, but also kind of one of our differentiators is the flavor profile of the fat that's in our pigs.
Yeah.
And so, again, taste and flavor. It's an ownable position for the pork industry. Beef has one flavor, umami.
Yeah.
Pork also has umami, but there's a palette of flavors from rooter to tooter. Bacon is just the beginning, but bacon is where it
hundreds
starts.
of flavors in a pig.
Unbelievable.
Is
It's
what,
unbelievable.
Is what they say.
Yes. So really, it's
crazy.
For a chef, for a culinary artist, there's nothing more exciting for them than to work with pork because there's so many options and so many different directions you can go with pork.
That's great. It's like if you have an artist and they're doing stuff with shades, right? You can only use
Absolutely.
the charcoal paintings.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
you give that same artist 100 different colors.
Exactly.
The 100 different colors is pork.
I love your
Yeah.
analogy. The charcoal painter, that's the guy who's stuck with beef.
It's great. It's beautiful, but it's
Of
one.
course it is. But just think
It's
about
not as colorful.
just think of what you can do with a whole palette of colors, right?
Yeah.
And then we have a whole palette of flavors, rooter to tooter, nose to tail. We could explore all across that carcass and just find a lot of innovative and great ways to enjoy pork.
And I think we're about to. Daniel, what's your favorite cut of pork?
Oh, this is a tough question, to be honest. And Dwight, I was planning on getting into this a little bit later, but as a Latino myself, I have like 6 different types of pork that I'm like, these are my go-tos. So I think that nothing can be like a very good like pork chop, just a regular old plain pork chop, just some salt, some pepper and some rice, and that's golden for me. One another thing, there's a Latino type of pork meat that you can cook. We call it carnitas.
Oh yeah.
People usually make like tacos with it and all that. It's really, really good. But I would take carnitas if I have to choose one.
And carnitas, that's the shoulder, kind of like a pulled pork, but with different seasonings.
Yeah, it's like I would say, and people might come for me for what I'm saying right now, but I think that what makes a carnitas, it's like the way you cook it. I think you cook it on its own grease. And you cook it on its own juice, meat, and all that, and you let it simmer on its own fat for like hours, and it's just amazing, to be honest.
Yeah. So it resonates well with me, the flavor, and again, typically out of the shoulder is where you're going to find some of those well marbled whole muscle cuts for making great carnitas, or the El Pastor would be another great way to enjoy. And so again, in your culture, rather than center of the plate, I was interested that you mentioned pork chop, because pork chop really is kind of known, I think, throughout a lot of cultures, but pork as an ingredient is really where the Latino population, because
they kill it with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So whether it's El Pastor or whether it's carnitas, there's just so many ways that you can weave pork into various dishes, whether it's a bowl or on a tortilla.
Yep.
There's just a lot of options.
And you know what's very common? I think I saw a graph about this like a couple of weeks ago. One of the most common uses of pork in Latin America is actually not meat at all. It's like pork lard. Because in some Latin American countries, I think in Honduras is one of them. Pork lard is way cheaper than just buying just like plain oil. Mm-hmm. So people cook their tortillas with it. People cook their beans with it. People cook like everything with it. So everything at the end has like a taste of pork, like right at the back of your tongue, right? Oh. So it's really good. But one of the I think it was in the graph. This like the second most popular pork product sold.
So you've identified something that I've noticed when I've been in retail stores. There is a lot of lard, and quite frankly, you go back in our history before we had vegetable oils, right? Before soybeans and all the other vegetable oils we have,
canola, avocado, soy, it's all over the place.
But lard was what most households use, right? In fact, so we've taken the leaf fat. So the leaf fat would be the highest quality fat on the carcass. We get about 3 pounds of that. So that's the internal fat, not the back fat cover, but it's the internal fat between the muscles or around the organs. And we're making a high quality lard. Our fat, because of the nutrition program of how we feed our pigs the last 6 to 8 weeks prior to harvest, is really rich in the omega-3 essential fatty acids, which makes for a really bright, white, solid, flavorful fat. And so we actually have a restaurant that's using our lard, and they replaced the tallow that was in their fryers, and now they're using the leaf fat lard in their fryers and cooking all their fried foods in that.
It gives the food just a different taste.
It's been very well received. And then also, of course, the traditional use of lard would be in pastries and pie crust, right? Yeah. And so we're finding a pathway,
a home to bring that back.
As well, because healthy fats are coming back in because people are really starting to question. And I'm not here to disparage anything, right? I mean, I think
capitalism made fats look not as good as what they could have been because people came with some very compelling reasons. And I think research has suggested that no, those fats are actually pretty important.
Yes. So I'm not here to disparage what vegetable oil can and has done, but if given the opportunity to incorporate a high quality animal fat, going back to lard, I mean, it's going to do something not only for flavor, but I think from a health standpoint, you're going to find that it's very, very important. Again, I referenced Rob Brenneman, but he's a huge believer in our youth and our young people for brain development, and he can quote a lot of research to validate. It's not an opinion; it's based on fact. Of that, this is really critical, and I think the MAHA movement speaks into this right now. RFK Jr. probably has not always been considered a friend of the swine industry, but there's something there with the MAHA movement in the return to kind of some of the basic foodstuffs that we've gotten away from.
The basic all-natural ingredients.
Absolutely. And I think that's a place for pork to shine. And I appreciate you bringing up lard because
for sure.
In your culture, I know that is very true.
So can you tell us Iowa Craft Meats? Mm-hmm. Let's go through the business. When was it founded? Who's a part of it? How do you get your product to consumers?
So, conceptually, I would say about 10 years ago, I committed to myself knowing that, being the visionary for the family, if this business is going to be resilient into the next generation or two, that somebody is going to have to take upon themselves to become a student of the meat business beyond the farm gate. And so, I've been pretty good at connections and networking. Actually, I have a first cousin who's a meat scientist, and he was at South Dakota State, but probably before your day, he took about a 10-year sabbatical and then returned into the academia. He's at University of Arizona today, but Dr. Dwayne Wolf would have been meat science department head up and through about 2009 or 10 up at South Dakota State. But anyway, he gave me a personal tutorial on how to fabricate a hog carcass because I'll be honest with you, I didn't know as well as what I should have of where all the cuts come from and how you go about fabricating muscles into products that we get. And so
even the Innovation Summit where they did that in front of all of us in the auditorium was a great learning experience.
Absolutely, yes. And we had Carrie Underly, Iowa Pork Producers, did at the Iowa Pork Congress, and again, a great opportunity. And we as producers, I think, need to take it upon ourselves to understand, better what really happens after we sell that market hog, and we get that paycheck based off of a hot carcass weight scale, and after that, we don't really have anything to do with it anymore, right? And so I think so I took that upon myself. But really, where this has evolved to is I really knew that a lot of people who have tried what I'm trying. The carcass utilization challenge is the challenge, right? I mean, when that pig draws its last breath and turns into a live animal to a carcass, you have a ticking time clock, right?
It all has to go somewhere.
It has to go somewhere, and it's perishable, right? I mean, so the expression of sell it or smell it, right? I mean, it will sell at a price, but it might not be at a profitable price. And so quite frankly, we knew that would be a challenge, and so we were able to negotiate an arrangement with a processor where we do have the opportunity to buy back primals, but we've got a little bit of a grace period. Our goal is to be buying back 80% of this carcass by the end of this year. And so we want to utilize 80% in our product line. We feel like if we can get it to that threshold, we can resell or spin off, if you will, at least 20% to somebody else in the wholesale trade that we don't need to worry about.
Probably like the knuckles and the ears, like just kind of the things that foreign markets are more eager to consume.
Yep, and our challenge is going to be no different than anybody else, right? We send roughly half of our hams as green hams to Mexico, right? I mean, an 8 to 10 pound ham for a household of 2 or 3 makes for a long week or a long month, right? I mean, we got to figure out better ways to utilize that ham muscle, and it's 25% of the carcass. So no doubt our challenge will be, like it is for everybody else's, how do we utilize that 25% of the pig? We have to think of more creative ways than just the traditional ham. I mean, it's kind of like a turkey. You can sell it twice a year. Ham, you got Easter and you got, maybe Thanksgiving and Christmas. But we got to be thinking about deli ham and other ways, but even the fresh ham muscles and ways to fabricate that ham into individual muscles that can be used fresh. And I think we can learn from the Latino population of how they do that. In fact, that's one of my missions, is to actually get to Mexico and understand more granularly how fresh ham muscle is really utilized in diets and in menu planning.
Which is fascinating, too, because they do take a lot of hams.
Absolutely.
And in all of my trips to Mexico or any of the meals with Latino friends, I'm never seeing ham. Like, where is all this ham going?
Yeah,
they're eating it somewhere.
So part of it is just the laborious part of boning a ham out, right? And so it's a very laborious part, and it's a high skill set too. I mean, I've been in, there's a ham facility there where we take our hams to, and it's fascinating. I mean, these are very highly skilled people that are boning hams on these ham boning lines, and a lot of our packing plants just don't have the labor force and the skill sets to do that, and so they outsource that to companies that do that and do it very well. And so that's what we're doing as well, to get down to the boneless ham muscle, but then taking that ham muscle into something other than a traditionally cured ham. That's our challenge, right?
And you're going B2B right now?
So we actually, again, in order to have a resilient model, and I think we always will as we scale and grow, we will always have a very good base in the what we would call the premium wholesale market. And so actually we've gotten a lot of traction in the Asian space. So when I say Asian, I'm speaking more specifically to the Korean and to the Japanese cuisines. And there's a significant population here in the U.S. In our metropolitan areas. And then that has actually led to some connections even on exports. And so we actually are representing our product in Korea and Japan both already through exporters. And my son and I are going to be in Korea in the latter part of June.
Oh, very fun.
And then I haven't booked my tickets yet, but we have an opportunity to go on a trade mission to Korea and Japan with Iowa Economic Development in November. And I've been on a trade mission before through Iowa Pork Producers back in 2017. And quick story there. When we built our first finishing barn in 1978, we had a Japanese exchange student just for about 5 weeks. He was 13, I was 13 that summer. And it was through the 4-H Labo exchange program. We stayed in contact and corresponded. 39 years later, I was back in Japan and spent time with him and his wife and his children. And he was fascinated that, he was there when we built our first finishing barn. And then I was there as part of a delegation from the pork industry. And I told Takeyoshi, I said, Takeyoshi, I'm coming back not to represent pork from Iowa, but I'm going to represent pork from our farm someday.
Yeah.
And
from your own
here
brand.
we are. It's not even 10 years later. And I'm hoping that we can do that, in 9 or 10 years since that trip in 2017 that I took.
All right. So, Daniel, you should start eating some beef sticks.
I was gonna open it, but
we're gonna share those flavors.
So we're going to change the nomenclature, and that was a very common mistake. You just called it a beef stick.
I did.
But everybody does.
Oh, my goodness.
When we give people our pork sticks, they say, oh, these are some of the best beef sticks. And I says, what?
That's a good point.
But people call it, by default, people call them beef sticks.
Wow.
But this is a pork stick, and it brings to this shelf-stable, handheld, grab and go, very portable, right? Take them with you. Truck drivers love them. Kids love them. My grandkids, my daughters have to ration them. I mean, literally, they would over-index on these if we didn't let them, ration them out. But they have taste and flavor. Pork owns taste and flavor.
I love your jalapeno one.
And
Dwight, I
again,
wanna-
the honey barbecue, the jalapeno, our original flavor, 0 grams of carbohydrates, 7 grams of protein, and a 1 ounce stick. I tell you what, there's nutrition and there's flavor. What else can you ask for? And plus the portability of it. Shelf stable, you can carry them with you. And again, when you get a hunger and you turn to protein rather than carbohydrate, I mean, you're way ahead of your peers, right? I mean, it's going to carry you a lot further to that next meal.
What's your favorite one, Dwight?
Well, so I'd like the jalapeno myself. I like a little zip with mine, but
Yep.
I think our jalapenos got just the right amount. It's got some kick to it, but there was some good friends of mine who were preferring I would do a ghost pepper or habanero, but this is more of the middle of the road on spiciness.
Yep.
It's a Midwest spicy.
But it's a Midwest spicy. There you go. Yeah. I don't like so much spice that you can't taste the meat.
It's probably going to taste sweet to me, you mean?
yeah, it might be sweet for you.
Yeah. But really, the honey barbecue is by far one that with the younger kids,
Probably
right?
most
The
popular.
sweetness, right? Is
Yeah.
by far, the kids just love the honey barbecue. And the original, I mean, it's got more the natural flavor. It's not, again, you don't necessarily have to mask.
You don't need to do much.
The natural flavor that pork brings, right? I mean, a little it carries flavor well, but you take the white meat, from the chicken breast, and I say it's a great vehicle for seasoning, but what else does it bring to the party?
Yep.
I mean, it's just protein, but there's not a lot of flavor there.
Beef, you're not going to mask that flavor.
No.
Chicken, there's minimal flavor, and it's a vehicle.
It's a vehicle for seasoning.
And pork can be a vehicle. It can be that strong. It can be everywhere in between. It
Yep.
can cater to both sides.
It absolutely can.
So versatile.
Yeah, and what I've got here, right? I mean, a lot of the artisans who've done a phenomenal job, are spiral or rope
take
sausages.
us through and go ahead and hold it up.
Well, so this here, we've got different flavor profiles. So we're working a Craftsman here. This would be a sweet fennel. That's a great flavor. I would, liken fennel into some of the best Italian sausage that you're going to have on a pizza, right? It's going to have a fennel base. This here is just a bratwurst flavored spiral. I mean, you could throw these are ready to eat. So, our products are frozen, but obviously you can slack these out in cold water in a matter of an hour. And you can do this on a flat top or on a grill, or you can do it in a frying pan or boil it in water. I mean, it just, just like a hot dog. And this is our Duroc dog here. I mean, don't
so
discount
explain a
the
Duroc
fact.
dog.
Well,
It's just from a Duroc, or is there something else going on?
So no, it's a hot dog. It's an all pork hot dog.
Oh.
Yeah, it's an all pork hot dog. It's about a 65-35, right?
That is
so
a big
so it's
hot
got some
dog.
great
That is a
flavor.
big
So this is
hot
a quarter pound. It's a quarter pound dog.
That is.
But yeah, all of our pork is Duroc, and so we've got that registered and certified by USDA that we use that claim on all of our labels, and so we call them our Duroc dogs. But yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, they have, and they've got some natural casing, so it's got some little snap to it. Of course, we're not going to dilute it down with anything other than just good high quality pork. We use belly trim and we use shoulder trim on this, and so this is coming from the belly and the shoulder where you've got a lot of flavor.
Yeah.
So I was at a baseball game this weekend, and a friend of mine wanted to do the 9 hot dogs and 9 innings challenge.
Yeah.
Well, it's 9 hot dogs and 9
What's that?
beers. But that's like a challenge, and it's really difficult. And then I see these hot dogs. There's no way they're doing 9 and 9. That is a solid dog.
Oh yeah. That's a meal, right? I mean,
That
a quarter
is-
pound hot
that is
dog.
great.
Right? Yep. Yeah. No. That one will. At a ball game, if you have one of those,
You're full.
that's going to take care
This
of you.
is great.
Right? Yep. Again.
And more dog than bun, finally.
Absolutely. Yep. And of course, this is Italian flavored. Italian seasoning always goes good. So that would be
Those are
our
great in
spiral.
pasta.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. You
Right?
want to talk pasta? My wife makes a pasta sauce to die for, and she uses ground pork in that.
Yeah.
And then you add to that, I think I've got here my andouille. Where do I see andouille? And maybe my andouille didn't make the cut here. Right here it is. So this is an andouille. You take one of these and section that up and mix that in with your spaghetti and your sauce.
You know which one I was looking at this one because this one kind of looks like what you call the guanciale.
Well, so I don't have my guanciale here, but so one of the craftsmen we're working with, we are working on a guanciale from Giallo meat, and we've got some salamis
for carbonara.
So yes. So guanciale and salami are some of our under development products that are actually hanging out right now, curing, if you will.
Yeah.
The old world cure. So anyway, this andouille is great.
This is an interesting one.
You take
one
our
you
breakfast sausage. We got some wild blueberry blended into these breakfast links. So again, a great breakfast sausage with the wild blueberry. Of course, pineapple is another flavor.
So some of that
well.
breakfast sausage has that mapley flavor in it as well. Is this just pure pork and blueberry flavor?
This is just pork with a wild blueberry
I
blended
bet that
in.
is good.
Yeah, and of course you got your traditional fresh bratwurst, right? I mean, you know, again, you can't beat a good bratwurst. And this is just another breakfast link here. I mean, there's so many options with flavor here. You know, our breakfast sausages that we can, you know, get in bulk, and you can make patties. We actually do have a patty as well, but this here is just you know, again, you can use it either as a patty or as a blend in any type of sauce that you might be making. The chorizo, of course, chorizo. You know, you just can't beat a good chorizo.
Now that you say chorizo, when I came to the United States, I didn't know you guys had so many names for your like sausage kind of foods.
Oh, absolutely.
We call chorizo like probably everything.
Yeah,
and
all
you guys
sausages,
and you guys
chorizo,
got sausages, hot dogs, bratwurst,
Yep.
links, a lot of things, and we just call it chorizo.
Yeah, that's more your Argentinian chorizo style, right?
This would be
Or is that your
Mexican.
Mexican
This would be
chorizo?
Mexican chorizo.
Okay.
Mexican chorizo is like minced meat, kind of.
Yep.
And for Honduras and for Central America, going down to South America, chorizo is actually like a link.
Yes. So the Argentina chorizo is very much a link.
Yeah.
And then the Mexican is.
And Mexican chorizo is just like minced meat.
Oh, I love chorizo.
Yeah.
And obviously, our Western European influence for those of us, a lot of us traditional, you know, families that came from the 1800 wave of immigrants into the early
Netherlands,
1900s,
Germany.
right? From
Yeah.
Germany, the Netherlands, from the Scandinavian countries. I mean, you take our hometown lockers, and there's a lot of sausage recipes that are
Yes.
family secrets, right? And a lot of our local, meat lockers or meat butchers, right? They've got their own sausage recipe, and so the sausage scene, it's phenomenal, especially when you get into cities like Chicago or New York City. I mean, it's unbelievable the differences that you can find in sausages, and of course, I've already mentioned the bacon, but one thing I do want to highlight: I don't have any whole muscle cuts out here at the moment, but this here was what we call our Duroc Delmonico steak. And so it's an 8-ounce boneless portion. So when you understand the muscle in a mammal, we have what's called the longissimus dorsi. That's the posture muscle that goes along the spine. And so it's a very tender muscle. We refer to it as the loin in the midsection. But that same muscle, I mean, literally from rooter to tutor, right? From nose to tail along that spine. In this shoulder region, we call it a lot of different names, but copa, collar, money muscle in the barbecue scene. But that, and even on the loin, right, from the sirloin end to the up near the shoulder, the ribeye end, towards that ribeye end, that's where you get more marbling and more deep red color, and it just gets better as you get into the shoulder. So that's where we cut these 8-ounce boneless Duroc Delmonico steaks from. And we're using terms that are similar to the beef chuck. And at the end of the day, what we tell people is
It's
prepare
familiar.
it like a steak, it will eat like a steak.
Yeah.
And so we've got our Duroc Delmonico steak. We've got our Duroc flat iron steak. We make a Duroc mock tender steak. We've got a Duroc bone-in ribeye steak. We've got a Duroc bone-in porterhouse steak. And so again, we use the steak term because you need to cook it like a steak to eat like a steak.
Yep.
Chop is more traditional, right? But literally chop came from the day when loins were much smaller, not only on the pig, but on the lamb too. And they had the meat cleaver on the butcher block. Chop, chop. That's how you got your chops. We don't cut chops with a cleaver. We do them just like you do a ribeye. So we saw them with a meat saw. So there's nothing novel about calling it a steak.
Yeah.
A chop was a term from the cleaver in the butcher block days. We're beyond that.
So you brought a significant amount of pork, and what people are seeing here is a fraction of that. So what
just
we're
a
going
fraction.
to do is we're going to take a break, and we're going to swap this out, and then be right back to look into that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's an incredible amount of variety and options.
You probably know we talk a lot about innovation in pork production here. What you might not know is SwineTech, the team behind this podcast, is leading the charge with their PigFlow platform. SwineTech is dedicated to empowering pork producers worldwide to provide high-quality, individualized care for every pig. Their world-class workforce management and point-of-care platform, PigFlow, streamlines, automates, and monitors routine and emergency care, communication, daily workflows, administrative duties, and herd diagnostics. This enables producers to optimize workflow and task clarity, execution efficiency, prioritization, and simplification of compliance assessments. PigFlow empowers managers with the ability to analyze and refine their processes and make adjustments to enhance overall value. If you're interested in learning how producers are maximizing their resources, enhancing efficiencies, and improving employee engagement in pig care with PigFlow, visit swinetechnologies.com.
All right, now we're back after getting all of the meat swapped out. Before we get started, I do want to do a shout out to the National Pork Board for helping sponsor this and all the work they're doing to create a pathway for innovation like this. And excited for you to continue this. And yeah.
Dwight, so what do we have here?
Well, again, like I said, from rooter to tutor, tail, from nose to tail, there's all kinds. We talked about the ham, right? But I just want to call out a couple of things. You can take boneless ham cuts and you can macerate them and put them in a net and make what's called a pit ham, which is the traditional way to do a boneless ham. This here, if you leave it in the natural state, this would be the outside muscle on the ham, and it can be cured. And we call this a carver ham. So this would be a side profile, but this would be half of that outside muscle. And so, beautiful, unadulterated cut. I call it the closest thing to a bone-in ham flavor without the bone. And so that's a great way. But then you could take the pit ham and you can shape that. You can make yourself a boneless ham steak. You can make yourself a boneless ham chop, a little thicker cut. Of course, the traditional ways to make it either a large pit ham, 10 to 12 pounds. You can cut it in halves, cut it in quarters, but the quarter would be the most popular, relevant size. And then we also make a knuckle ham, and I don't have that there, but it's about a 2 to 3 pound ham from the knuckle meat, which is going to be a brighter red, leaner. And then, of course, I've got here.
How do the flavors transfer? Like how different? Because we all know the we'll call it the Sunday ham or the Thanksgiving ham, Christmas ham.
Yeah.
How do these different approaches to that ham change that flavor?
Well, so, the cure master, never discount that, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, so we've carefully chosen the right cure master to cure and to make our hams. But I talked about the impact of fat, right? Mm-hmm. And so the impact of the flavor from the fat is very critical in our ham as well. And so knowing that you've got a certain amount of fat content that really enhances the flavor experience is really critical in our ham products.
And you talked about getting up into that knuckle, that redness. I mean, what is that, a richer flavor?
So that's actually a little leaner. And so for those who are a little more apt to shy away from fat content, and so it's a rich flavor, but it's a leaner muscle of the ham, and so it's going to be deeper red in color, very tender, very flavorful, but it's not going to have as much fat content.
I want to ask you guys a question. Culturally, here in the United States, do you guys eat ham like whenever?
Traditionally,
maybe lunch ham
is, for sandwiches, right? More recently, it's become a sandwich meat, a deli meat, but kind of as a Sunday meal in the household I grew up, or a nice meal. I mean, I actually grew up in the day, Daniel, when it was canned hams, and you can still buy a canned ham, but not many people know what a canned ham is. But
I don't think. What's a canned ham for you? Because immediately what I think about a canned ham. You might attack me for this, but I think of Spam. I don't know why.
So Spam, spicy ham, I think is what Spam insinuates. So it's got the flavor of a spicy ham, but it's not truly ham. It's its own product. It's a brand for Hormel Foods, right? It's Spam. But like Spam being canned, meaning shelf stable in a can, there was a time when ham, that was the way you bought it when I was a kid. I mean, you literally went to the pantry, got a can, literally had a key. You would take a little metal band all around to get the top to come off, and then it was
Voila.
kind of jiggled a little bit because the fat gelatinized in there, so it was a little jiggly.
Yeah.
But yeah, warmed up, and it was a great Sunday meal. In fact, quite frankly, I think a lot of pantries, when I was a child, I mean, a lot of households just had a ham or two for that unexpected guest, right? I mean, or unexpected meal. Perhaps I thought of it more as a Sunday afternoon type meal with a ham.
And the reason I'm asking is because in Latin America, ham is like a very holiday kind
Very
of meat.
much so. Very much so.
And we don't
Yeah.
eat ham
Yeah.
at least in my house. I don't know if in other houses it's
Well,
different.
the
but at
more
least in my
traditional
house-
Midwest Sunday dinners were very holiday-esque.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Very
And
much
it's
so.
become much less so.
Yep.
But I think that's kind of that tie together.
Correct.
is When you
Correct.
think holidays, that's almost what that Sunday lunch or dinner was
Yeah.
for the local family.
Absolutely. Yep. The after church dinner, right?
Yes.
And families would
And
come
we're
together.
talking about like the ham, which you put like pineapple on it, cherries on it,
Correct.
and all that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
and that'd be
okay.
more the holiday type
Yeah,
presentation.
okay.
That's the
Absolutely.
spiral
Yeah.
cut, right?
Yeah.
Or-
Well, so yeah, spiral cut has become a kind of the what I want to say, the convenient way to not have to carve the ham yourself, right? But I'm not a fan of spiral hams because, quite frankly, it tends to, if not prepared properly, can dry out.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you're exposing all those surfaces, right? And so it's not that difficult to carve a ham. But again, we tend to be very focused on convenience, right? And so that's today's consumer.
So what's cottage bacon?
So actually, this particular craftsman where we have it made, they refer to it as cottage bacon, and that's quite often how we hear that. It comes from this same muscle that we had talked about earlier with the Delmonico steak, out of that copa muscle. And so we actually are calling it copa bacon. This particular craftsman calls it cottage, but we have another craftsman that we just picked some up here just this last week, and we've had a few customers of that have really shown interest in buying that copa bacon. And so again, it's a leaner bacon. It doesn't have as much marbling as what you'd have from the belly, but again, all the taste and flavor and thinly sliced. And then of course you got the traditional Canadian bacon, which comes from the loin,
I was
right?
about to ask
And
that.
so this is Canadian bacon. Quite often you'll have that.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting on pizza. You got to be careful and read the fine print. You may have what's called Canadian style bacon, which isn't from the loin, but true Canadian bacon comes from
What's
the loin.
Canadian style from the ham?
Canadian style could be from any cut.
Oh.
So
Okay.
it's up to the processor to decide. So it's
Creative.
a Canadian style, but a true Canadian bacon. And you go to Canada, and I've been at a venue in Canada in the morning, and they ask you if you want bacon, and this is what you'll get for bacon, because that truly is the Canadian's bacon.
You know in Honduras, the pizza that has like pepperoni and Italian sausage on it, we just call it la canadiense, which means the Canadian one.
Yeah.
And it's because it has sausage, which I don't know where that term came from, but
You said La Canadiense?
la canadiense, which means the Canadian one.
Yeah.
And that's what we call the pizza that has pepperoni and Italian sausage on it. I don't know if it has a connection to it. I believe it does because that's the only one that has like pork on it. So
Yep.
yeah.
So again, we've got a variety. Of course, again, we call it, this would be our tomahawk steak. And so again, we're leaving that rib bone attached to do a tomahawk.
What the heck is this?
So we'll get to that shortly.
Okay.
This would be your traditional, ribeye. So it's got the bone-in ribeye, and of course the bone-in with the porterhouse. But that there is actually a Puerto Rican cut, and it's actually kind of a hybrid of the Puerto Rican.
Okay.
So in Puerto Rico, they call that a can-can. And so a true can-can chop is actually goes from the spine to the navel. And so they leave the belly and the loin connected and literally include that rib bone from the loin back rib, including what we would call the spare rib, and leaving that rib meat, that belly meat on there. So literally you've got a belly and a loin and the rib bones with it. When I say a hybrid, this one does not have the full back fat cover and the skin. The true can has the skin on it, and so the Puerto Ricans would deep fat fry it. They score that skin, so it's like chicharron.
Yeah, chicharron.
Yeah. But this one does not have the skin, so you won't have the chicharron effect. And that's the challenge of making the can, because you got to get that fat to render down, and you've got to get that skin to get crispy. And you can't do that very easily without overcooking the meat, because we're kind of set on that 135 to 145 as being about the internal temperature. And when you deep fat fry it, you're going to take that a little hotter than that.
So on that point, Pork Board has been very focused on the consumer not always knowing what to do with the meats. And you are coming out with very authentic, creative, flavorful cuts. How has the consumer responded to what I would consider to be an elevated challenge to learn how to cook some of these creative cuts? Because I don't even know if I would know where to start, especially with the can cake.
Yeah. So it takes a lot of engagement, right? Especially on fresh cuts. And so that is the challenge with pork in general, is pork has never reigned supreme in the fresh space. I mean, again, the traditional successful meat brands, it's all about the processed meats. That's where they make their investments. That's where the margins are. And quite frankly, the fresh meat becomes the clearinghouse.
Yeah.
And hence, we who know how to create value in our own households from the full 7 to 9 pound boneless pork loin, which has become a byproduct of loin back ribs, right? I mean, when I was in college back in the 80s, a few years ago, right? 40 some years ago.
Just a couple of years.
We would go to Fairway a couple of days before the football game and ask them to bone out a loin for us, and they would net wrap the boneless loin meat, and then we'd do that on a Weber grill. And so that was our version of a boneless loin. Boneless loins were not in the meat case. I mean, the butcher did that for us. Today, that happens at the packing plant, right? Because of the huge demand for the loin back ribs for the restaurant and the barbecue scene. And so, as a result, that boneless loin is a byproduct of that loin back rib. And if you want a rib that has a lot of meat, always take the loin back, because the spare rib comes off the belly. Well, guess what? That belly brings a pretty good price as what we call a sheet belly that gets turned into bacon.
Yeah, they're not going to leave extra on there.
They're not going to leave extra on that spare rib. Now, the competitive barbecue scene, they like that St. Louis rib, right?
Yep.
But for the average barbecue folks, I mean,
is that what the St. Louis rib has? Is it keeps a little bit more of that belly on there?
Well, so it depends on who they're sourcing them from, but I think those who do well in the barbecue scene are having somebody fabricate them, leaving some more meat on them.
They're cheating.
So well, again, if you're competing, you're going to know that, right?
Dwight, I wanted to ask you. Sorry for interrupting.
You're fine.
I wanted to ask you. So you mentioned that back then that was the culture, right? Doing the cookout session and all that. So would you say that pork is more popular as of today for people that are in their older age or people who are in their younger age?
So you make an excellent point. You bring up an excellent question there, Daniel. So the Pork Board has done this study, and we have got a really big, daunting challenge here, but I see it as a daunting opportunity because our loyal customer base is aging out.
Yeah.
Baby boomers, I would be considered a Gen X, like right on the borderline. 1965 is when I was born. I think that's kind of where they start the Gen X. So you take 65 to 85, and then you go into the millennials after that. But the millennials and the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha, we are not doing well. We are not relevant. And so you can call that a challenge. I look at it as an opportunity. I call it an unadulterated market. They do not have a preconceived notion about how to prepare pork.
Yeah.
They're
It's a clean slate.
It's a clean slate. They're very hungry, very teachable on
They're
how
also
to
not
do
worried
it right.
about the temperature you're cooking it to, right?
Exactly.
'Cause that's also clean
They're
slate.
not as prone to the old grandmother's
Hockey puck.
fable, and again, the German culture that a lot of us grew up in, where breading and gravy, masked that overcooked pork, right? And so use plenty of breading and plenty of gravy, and really lean genetics don't matter if that's what you're after, is the gravy and the breading, right?
Yeah.
But if you're one of
They were trying to make it a carrier, like a chicken at that point.
Exactly. And again, we know why that was, right? Back in the day when pigs were a dirtier animal, right?
Yep.
But today's production systems, I mean,
As clean as ever.
It's clean as ever, right? It's very, very safe, very clean, and a great opportunity to teach this younger generation how to eat pork like their parents never even knew, right? And so again, they're hungry, they're open to it. And so I see it as a phenomenal opportunity that we can't pass up. Now, this here is a large, fresh belly. You're obviously not going to prepare this, but I just wanted to bring this to show you that this is not a sheet belly, and again, it's cryovac, but a sheet belly actually would not be this thick, because if you can see these
That's
indentations, this is where the rib bones were. And so rather than to use a draw knife and pull those spare ribs off of that belly, this was a bone-in belly where the ribs were removed individually and that finger meat stayed on the belly. And so this is a belly that has more meat. This is a very, very common way to fabricate fresh belly for the Asian space, the Koreans, the Japanese, because, they don't use forks and knives. They slice this very thin.
I bet that's good.
This would be the cut of meat that you use for chicharrón, right? Chicharrón.
Well, chicharrón is going to come from the skin, probably from the belly, and with some fat there, right? But this here is actually the meat of the belly with the good marbling, and it's got the finger meat that would be traditionally on the spare rib or the St. Louis rib. And so the Asians have known for a long time that finger meat is good, like we know it is on the but they eat their belly fresh. They don't eat cured belly as bacon. And so this wouldn't be a sheet, what we call a sheet belly. That's basically the belly after it's squared up and you remove the spare ribs. And so we take a belly in its natural state, individually remove those ribs. The term they call is single rib belly. Well, there's no rib, but what that means is they remove each rib a single at a time. So there's a special knife to do that, a special tool. And so we're actually merchandising an incredible amount of our bellies as fresh single rib bellies into that Asian market because we've got the richness and flavor from the impact from our high omega-3 fats. And of course, the Duroc genetics, the genetic line that we're using, brings that tenderness and that redness. And so this has been a very hot item for us in the early days. Now, again, to bring this across the cultures, we would have to understand how to use fresh belly. Now, a lot of us have experienced fresh belly, pork belly burnt ends, right? I call it meat candy, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you can cube this up, put your favorite rub on, smoke it, finish it off with a little honey glaze. I mean, melt in your mouth, right? I mean, again, we have our infatuation with bacon, but there's other incredible things you can do with that pork belly other than just turn it into bacon. And so that's why I wanted to show the fresh belly. And again, just the fresh ground pork. This particular chub, it's a 5-pound chub. This is actually made from the boneless picnic. And so it's going to be a deeper red. And we're actually making our burgers, our 6-ounce or even, third-pound burgers, even doing quarter-pound burgers from the Boston butt. So that obviously would be the pork shoulder above the picnic. But this here is a high-quality ground pork from the picnic. It's about an 80-20. Again, with pork, you don't want 85, 95. In fact, even 70 or 75 on ground pork is going to make for better flavor. But you can get a deep red color in your ground pork if you're using those shoulder cuts versus trimming from across the carcass. This here is a fully cooked, no flavor added, and so this is our only fully cooked product I've got here, and that's the cushion meat from the picnic. So the picnic, that lower part of that front leg, you could actually take that. This is shredded and cooked. And this is in a 5-pound food service package, but we're going to be portioning these more meal relevant in time here, right?
So just throw it in a crock pot and
throw it in a crock pot. When you want to talk carnitas, right? I mean, you can make your carnitas out of this. You know, you can do your seasoning, do it on a cast iron or a flat top.
Some birria with that.
Yep. So this would be the base.
That'd be good.
This would be the base for doing your carnitas or any of your pulled pork sandwiches. So this is no season, no barbecue. But again, it gives you the opportunity to do whatever twist you want for flavor and preparation method for warming that back up.
Dwight, what do you think of the ultra premium cuts of pork? Like I'm talking about like jamón ibérico, bellota, and those cuts of meat that they sell in Spain that they're like maybe
like for charcuterie.
Sheet like that is like
prosciuttos and the So again, that's what I call the old world cure, right? I mean, like literally the Parma hams, right? So you're talking a cured process that may take, I think, up to a year, right? But but shelf stable. You can set it on your counter and you can literally slice off a thin slice. Great flavor, very rich flavor, right?
Yeah.
And again, we haven't done that yet, but it's certainly on the radar. Again, it's a great way to have deep flavor. One thing you can do, and we're doing this with our loins, is we're doing a dry age. And so you can do a dry aging on pork. Dry aging isn't just for beef and it's not just for lamb. I mean, you can dry age pork. And again, it helps bring a more of a richness. It tenderizes some of the connective tissue, and again, it's just a different twist. I'm not saying dry aging is
better
premium,
or worse. Yeah.
but it's another flavor. It's another twist. Again, there's so many
Keeps
options.
things interesting.
Absolutely, there's so many options.
Yeah.
It's never boring with pork, right? It's not same old, same old.
And talking about things that are in your radar right now, what would you say would be the future right now for Iowa Crafts Meat?
So we are working with some fully cooked meat companies, and so using commercial sous vide cooking. And so we truly think the consumer is not going to have more time. I mean, the weekend chef, right, that's one thing. But how can we get pork to be on the menu every day of the week, right? Now, breakfast pork has reigned supreme for many, many years, right? But we don't just eat breakfast. We have lunch. We have dinners at night. We have meals on the go. We have meals the kids prepare. My vision is that we'll have fully cooked premium products that will taste much better than curbside pickup at some of your favorite restaurants. And an 8-year-old student coming home from school could have that warmed up and on the table when mom and dad come home, and they don't need to do curbside, and they can have an incredible eating experience. That's our vision, is these fully cooked meal solutions with pork. And that's where we think we really, really want to gravitate towards. But we'll be in the premium wholesale space. We will be in the traditional. We're going to explore the cuisines of multiple cultures. But at the end of the day, I don't see subsequent generations ever having more time. I think convenience and on the go is here to stay. And so we need to be focused on relevance, easy to prepare, do for them what, quite frankly, some people just don't have time to do for themselves. Not that they don't want to, they just don't have the time to do it.
Explore for them.
And again, we can bring them a variety of flavors and experiences. And again, there's so much untapped potential that we can do in this space as an industry. This isn't just for Iowa Craft Meats. This is a challenge for the entire industry, is that we need to work together. I mean, this is going to take a large village to move the needle. I mean, the challenge that David Newman, CEO of Pork Board, has taken upon himself, and really the charge from those who serve on the board of directors, is to move the needle 1 pound per capita per year per person, but at a higher value. So that's called shifting the demand curve. I mean, you can increase consumption by dropping price. That's a race to the bottom. Nobody wins, right? And again, sell it or smell it. You want to know the years where we consume most pork per capita? It's when pork was the cheapest, right? At a price, people will buy more. But shifting the demand curve means creating more value, offering value propositions where people are willing and able to spend more and buy more. And so again, that's shifting the demand curve. And that's what we as an industry need to really focus on.
So before we wrap up here, we'll ask Logan. So Logan, you're not a member of the pork industry, but you tried the sticks.
But I'm a pork fan, an avid pork fan.
Avid pork fan. Did you ever know there were this many varieties?
You know, in the back of my head, I knew, but like visualizing it on the table is a different experience. Yeah, for sure. You know, so this is really cool. Thank you for bringing this in. This is awesome.
Well, again, I'm a pig farmer, and I myself didn't even know this until the past several years, until I immersed myself. And I'm just
to the art of the pig.
So I've been coming alongside chefs. I've been coming along the artists, right? The craftsmen, the artisans, and they're teaching me so much. And of course, as a business person, I'm just trying to figure out how we can take what they do and deliver it to the masses, right? And that's our challenge as a pork industry. We need to figure out how to take all these exciting things and to efficiently distribute and market and merchandise pork in ways that we've never even imagined were possible. And so there's so much opportunity for all of us. It's not just for Iowa Craft Meats. I'm hoping that we can inspire others, other families, to do exactly what we're doing, because the marketplace is a very big market.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Popular Pig. We aspire to learn and grow together through the experience and wisdom shared by our esteemed guests. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and colleagues within the swine industry. For more information, please go to popularpig.com to receive updates when new episodes are available. Popular Pig is brought to you by SwineTech, the award-winning creators of SmartGuard and PigFlow. To learn how PigFlow can help you streamline your workforce and reduce piglet and sow deaths, visit swinetechnologies.com.